Can you hear me? While I'm going through this. So I was having a conversation. I was training a client yesterday. She's going on a road trip for 7 weeks across Canada this summer in a truck, and her back is out right now. So it was an interesting time because I was like, so the back and the hips and the knees really hate sitting for long periods of time. And when you're traveling across Canada, which is gargantuan country, it's probably not going to be the best time. So I went through all of the things that's in my brain that I could think of for mobility while you're traveling in seated and standing positions. And I thought, you know what, we might as well do that today as well. I'm going to throw in a few of those things. So it'll be useful if you guys are traveling. I mean, you know, to a lake that's 3 hours away, or BC, on a plane, on a train, an automobile, whatever you might be traveling on. It is really nice. The other thing too is that if you're not traveling, it is great just to get mobility in the joints and to get strength exercises while you don't have a lot of movement, a lot of equipment, a lot of space. It just can be a little bit restrictive sometimes, like especially if you're visiting family or something, you don't have a lot to work with. So we are going to start in our chair. I'm just going to back up a little bit so you guys can see me. Number one thing, of course, are you guys going to be able to see me? Just give me a second. I'm going to tilt this down a little tiny bit. Is when you're seated for any period of time, even if you're working at your desk, for 45 minutes to an hour, you're sitting in a car 45 minutes to an hour or longer, in a plane, always toe taps. Okay, so I'm going to get you sitting up nice and tall. You're going to have your feet flat on the ground. You do want to lift that rib cage off the belly so that your core is a little bit activated, and we're going to start with toe taps, just lifting those toes nice and high. Now I'm going to time it. It's about 45 seconds is what we're going to go for. Speed, you're going to try and go as fast as you can at the beginning, but you'll notice very quickly that the shin muscles, that's what we're working, the anterior tibialis, doesn't really like to go very fast or very long, and it'll start to fatigue quite quickly. So when that happens, I want you to continue, but I want you to fight for height instead. So you're just lifting those toes as high as possible. You will definitely start to feel the burn in the shins because we still have 15 seconds left. So just breathe. Keep that torso nice and high. Keep going. 5, 4, 3, 2, and good. You can kind of rub out those shins a little bit. If you have the mobility in your ankle, you can tuck your foot underneath the chair and kind of push down, and then you can switch to the other side. If your foot or your ankle or your shoe does not allow for that stretch to happen, perfectly fine. You can just do some ankle circles on one foot and then some ankle circles on the other. Okay, so we're going to do this 2 more times. What this is going to do for you in a seated position, whether you're traveling or not, is bring that blood that is pooled at the foot and in the ankle and in the lower leg back up to the heart, which is very important, especially if you have diabetes, varicose veins, blood pressure issues. We need that assistance from the muscles. So now we're going to do this the second time. You should feel a little bit more warmed up, but also extra fatigued. Okay, so we sit up nice and tall, feet are flat on the ground, and go ahead. We're going to go for another 45 seconds. Again, you'll probably start pretty darn fast, which is great. Don't worry so much about the rhythm. Just try to get speed and height, until inevitably those shin muscles start to pitter out. Your speed will slow down. I want you to breathe through that fatigue, through that burn, and then just really start to isolate height. Lift those toes, and just watch your feet, because maybe one is lifting about half the height as the other. Okay, so just make sure you keep them as equal as you can. Something might be going on there that you didn't know till you're looking at it. We have 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're good. So again, if you'd like, you can just kind of put one foot underneath you to stretch the top part of that ankle. If that doesn't work so well for you, you can do some ankle circles just to get some movement there. You can also just rub that fatigue out of the shins. When you're traveling, it depends on how long you're traveling for, but generally speaking, we're going to deal with physio terms. So it's going to be 10 reps when we're doing stuff, 3 sets. Okay. For this particular one, We're not doing this 10 times, don't worry. You're like, my legs feel like they're gonna fall off right now. We're only doing this one more time. We're doing 3 sets of this, okay? So we're sitting up nice and tall. You might have to adjust where those feet are, and go ahead, lifting up nice and high with those toes. Now you can fiddle with it this 3rd time around. If you bring your feet closer to you, notice immediately how it's practically impossible to lift those toes. If you go super far out and you're continuing those toe taps, notice how easy that gets. This is great. If you're in a vehicle for a long time, this is fine. You're still moving those muscles and the blood flow. But if you go to neutral and we do what we've been doing the last 2 sets, notice that difference. More difficult, but doable. We're meeting in the middle there. And that's where we're going to get those shin muscles to really, really work for us. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can just kind of run that out or just tuck that toe underneath and stretch that out. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful exercise to do. Highly recommend it more often than not. Like anytime you think about it, it's great to do that, especially if you are in a plane because of the altitude it does. Don't sit, please, okay? For 6 hours straight, don't sit on a plane. It's just something that if you can walk around, go to the bathroom, drink some water, do some stuff, that's great. Now we're going to do the opposite ankle movement, which is super duper easy. You're sitting up nice and tall, core is active. Now we're going to do heel raises. You'll notice, right? It's just like, oh yeah, I can do that, no problem. Why? Because the calf muscle is huge compared to the shin muscle. The calf is also very, very tight most of the time. So it likes to contract and get tighter, and the shin muscle just has to stretch. When we're doing toe taps, the calf muscle is very tight, and the shin has to fight against the tightness of the calf. So this is easier to do, but you will notice we're still pumping the blood from the feet up into the heart. But I wouldn't do this too much. You're going to get Charlie horses in your calf if you do this again and again and again and again. Okay, toe taps are always better, but we're doing this just so I can show you what it looks like. We got 3 more seconds left. 2, and good. So with this one, the right leg goes out, and you're going to kind of just relax the foot. It'll sort of point forward, but then pull towards you and then relax. So this, you're trying to really get a calf stretch with the knee straight, trying to feel that stretch right in the back of the knee, probably back of the calf. We'll switch to the other side, that left leg, extend that knee, and you're going to pull towards you, try to feel that stretch, and then just kind of relax it, loosen it up there. Now, this next one is tricky business. If you're in a truck, a car is a little squishy, okay? Airplanes are much squishier than that, depending on your leg length, like mine. But it's not like you can sit there and do seated front kicks, right? And in any travel scenario, really, that you can't do that. But what you can do is mess around with your hip flexion and your knee flexion. So feel free to kind of lean back a little bit in your chair. So the back is resting. Core is still active, nice and straight. Depending on your hip mobility, no sharp pain. You're going to pull that right knee in towards your chest, and then just pull on just a tiny little bit more, and then release. It takes about 3 to 5 seconds. You grab onto the knee once you get a hold of it, pull, takes about 3 to 5 seconds to get there, and then release. If you have severe arthritis in the hip, it's not going to want to do this. And that's like, you'll know, maybe it only gets to here. That's as far as it goes. But at least you're getting some movement when you're in the seated position, depending on where you are. I have tried this in a plane. You got to make real good friends with the people beside you, because I'm a real fun person to sit beside when I'm like, I'm dying, I need to move my muscles. In really small areas, you're probably not going to be able to do this, but if you can, in a truck, in a car, you have a little bit of room. This is beautiful for the back, because we're stretching the back by stretching that hip and that knee. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now what I'm going to get you guys to do is really, really, really push back so that we're 90 degrees in the hip, 90 degrees in the knees, shoulders are back and down. So we're in very much neutral position. This, I have to say, is probably the hardest version of squeezing our glutes that I can give you. Standing is easier. Lying down is the best way because we're in like full neutral position with the glutes. With this movement, you will not see anything other than the passenger beside you have this weird look on your face. What I want you to try to do for 5 seconds is I want you to squeeze your glutes. Okay, so squeeze your glutes. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. I know, were you like, did I do it? Did I move? Who knows, really? But what it is when you go ahead, we're going to squeeze right now. Squeeze your glutes as hard as you possibly can. Quads will help you a little bit. Hamstrings will help you a little bit. Should be a little shaky. And relax. Hopefully you feel a little bit of a lift in the sit bones, okay? We're going to go again. You're going to squeeze those glutes. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Don't forget to breathe. We tend to hold our breath when we're doing this. We have 2 more rounds of this. We're going to squeeze our butt. Ready? Go ahead. Squeeze as hard as you possibly can. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Should feel a little tired, hopefully, in those glutes because they're not used to doing this. We got 1 more time. Sitting up nice and tall and squeeze those glutes as hard as you possibly can. Quads, hamstrings, everything. Breathe and relax. Feel free to lean forward on your elbows just to loosen out your back a little bit and those glutes just a tiny little bit. Hardest version for sure. If you felt like your glutes barely did anything, if anything at all, that's pretty normal. Okay, it's hard because they're stretched out right now, and then we have to contract them, and they're in their resting pose. So it's not a bad thing. If you're just like, I don't know, at least you have it in your repertoire to try it out. Now I am going to get you guys to scooch forward just a little bit. We're going to warm up the spine a little bit before we move to the shoulders and whatnot. Of course, at any time, cat-cow and core twists are by far the best things you can do when you're traveling for your lower back and for your spine. If you have back issues, I recommend you just a towel, a pillow, one of those car seat back thingies. They are nice to have in your back to help support you. I would recommend that you take it out for like an hour just so that you can fall back into your old habits and then push it back into with the pillow to give it a little bit of rest and then give it a little bit of reprieve. Okay, so it's nice to have, but to loosen up the spine, we're going to do cat-cow. Hands are on your knees, sitting up nice and tall. When you inhale, everyone can arch forward. If you have a herniated or bulging disc, you're going to stop here. If your back is fine, on your exhale, you can curve all the way back. So inhale is fine for everybody. On your exhale, you might have to modify to here, or you can go all the way back. If your back does not have a herniated disc or bulging disc, that flexion is very nice to get that stretch in the hips and in the lower back. It will help a lot with lower back pain and aching, but more importantly, hips. If you have arthritis in the hips or just, they're really tight, what you're doing right now is you're actually rolling that greater trochanter joint, like the femur bone, you're rolling it in your pelvic bone while we do the inhale and the exhale. So it's very, very nice to get this movement and mobility. You'll probably have to be on the edge of your seat just so you can get that flexion in the spine. Okay, we're going to come back to neutral spine. We're staying at the front of our seat. This is the one where we're actually going to, for 5 breaths, we're going to be at one direction. I want you to inhale, nice and tall. And when you exhale, one hand goes to the outside of that knee. The other hand, either to the chair, hopefully, if it can go there. If you have shoulder issues, maybe behind your hips. We're going to stay here. We're going to inhale. And when you exhale, I want you to turn and look behind you. Stay there. Inhale straight. Exhale, twist the spine a little bit more. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, twist. Maybe you're not physically moving in the twist. Maybe you're just trying to relax those muscles. That works fine as well. And then very, very gently coming back to center. We're going to breathe here first. We inhale and exhale. We inhale, sit up tall. exhale, then we're going to twist the other way. We start where we start. Don't worry about that because we're going to breathe into it. On our inhale, we sit up a little taller. And on the exhale, that's where we use the arms. The arms are physically trying to move a tiny little bit, not a lot, no sharp pain. But on the exhale, the arms are helping the torso turn, helping the spine move a little bit more. Shoulders are relaxed, neck releases any tension. Deep inhale, straighten the spine, exhale, twist. Inhale, straighten the spine, exhale, twist. And then very, very gently coming back to center, breathing here. Our elbows are going to go to our knees just to kind of loosen that up. Okay. Now for the shoulders and the neck, which is actually great in a car in a seated position because you always have a headrest. We don't have a headrest in a chair, so we're actually going to be using our arms, but we'll warm up the shoulders first. So in neutral position, we're going to start with just normal shoulder circles. Okay, so you're going to lift those shoulders as high as possible and then bring them down. Lift them as high as possible and then bring them down. We're going to do this a few more times. If you have the space, like let's say you just traveled for 7 hours and you're stopping off in a hotel for the night. Okay, so your neck is pretty stiff, your back is not happy with you, but you have a chair to sit on. Okay, so you start with those. Now we have elbow room if we're just in a chair, not in a vehicle. Our hands are going to go on our shoulders. I'm actually going to turn this way. So with your hands on your shoulders, almost the same movement, but we're going to do the tips of our elbows. So when you inhale, you're going to lift those arms up as close to the ears as possible, maybe depending on the shoulder. And then they're going to fan out. When they come to here, they're heavy, heavy, heavy. They're going to pull those shoulders down. Feel that stretch right there in that neck? That's what you're looking for. Inhale, lift those elbows as close to the ears as possible. It can be quite difficult to do. And as they flare out, that should feel great. When they pull down, this is where they're heavy, 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 pull. Deep inhale, lift up. And as you exhale, pull them down. When we are driving or as a passenger traveling, we probably are not breathing very deep. Okay, shallow breathing. It's just the way that our body likes to be. So when you're doing all of these stretches, you're breathing as deep as you possibly can. We're expanding that rib cage, especially in this one. We inhale, we're lifting that rib cage up, we're expanding the rib cage out. And then on the exhale, we're emptying that belly and the rib cage. Inhale, lift. Last time, flaring out. And then you want to pull down, 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 and then just kind of release. Okay, roll those shoulders back and down. Now with the neck, it's actually pretty great to have a headrest because sorry, Smudge. just kicked my cat right in the head. The headrest, of course, is going to be here. And it's actually, normal headrests are kind of weird because when you're sitting in a vehicle, they actually kind of push your head forward a little bit, which is an irritating thing for me as a functional fitness trainer, but it is what it is. What it'll do is, I highly recommend this. You'll have the headrest here, right? You're going to do a little bit of chin tuck and you're going to push back. We don't have a headrest, so we're going to use our hands. You're going to put your hands behind your head. If your one shoulder can't do it, just use one arm. That's perfectly fine. But if you can, just try to get both hands behind you. Elbows can be wherever they want, here, wherever is comfortable. What we're trying to do is we're going to put a wall or a headrest behind our heads. We sit up nice and tall. I want you to do just a little bit of a chin tuck, tiny little chin tuck. A little bit of that double chin. And I want you to push into your hands for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. So if my hands weren't there, my head would be doing this. I'm pushing my head back. If there's a headrest or your hands, that's what you're trying to do. That's the movement, okay? Push back for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, tuck the chin just a little bit. Push the base of the skull into those hands for 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. You can bring those arms down, kind of shake them out. Notice that stretch / contracting fatigue in the back of the neck. We're going to be sitting like this normally when we're not paying attention. We get a lot of strain in the back of the neck. So it's called active release. What we're doing is we're contracting those muscles in the back of the neck and having them pull back so that these guys can stretch and these guys can strengthen. Very, very nice. Now we're going to go the other directions of the neck. Shoulders are back and down, sitting in neutral position. With your right hand, you're going to put right up against your head. Try to keep that elbow decently high. We're still doing tiny little bit of a chin tuck, just a little bit of that double chin. So now, if my hand wasn't here, my head is going to tilt like this. It's like the neck stretch that we always do, except because my hand is there, I'm going to try and tilt my head to the side, but I stop it with my hand. Push, press into that hand, and then release. Tuck the chin, tilt the head, but it doesn't actually go anywhere because the hand stops you. 3, 2, 1, and release. Tuck the chin, tilt the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. This last one, we're going to tuck the chin. Your free hand, I'm going to get you to put it right on that neck muscle here so that when we do this movement, tilt, feel that neck muscle right there. That's what we're trying to get right there. And release. Roll the shoulders. Notice the shoulders like, okay, because it's both. All those muscles attached to the shoulder and the neck have to work. We're going to do that other side. So that left hand, try to sit up nice and tall. A little bit of that chin tuck. If my hand wasn't here, we're tilting the head like, so it's not like I'm pushing the head sideways. I'm trying to do the neck stretch, but it doesn't happen because my hand is there. Tilt, push into that hand. 3, 2, 1, and release. Tuck the chin. Go to tilt the head, but the hand stops it. 3, 2, 1, release. Last 2 times, tuck that chin and tilt the head. See those muscles right there in the side of the neck? That's what you're looking for. And relax. Last time, your free hand. So we're going to put the hand here. This free hand to the inside of the neck. Tilt the head like this. Push. See that muscle right there? That's what you're going for. You're like, yep, that's contracting. That's what you're looking for. And release. Just roll the shoulders. Kind of work them out a little bit because those are the traps that are working. So these scalene muscles, they're very, very tight, very upset. And it's not like you'll notice them, okay? It's not like you're gonna be like, man, my neck feels tight. It's gonna be like, oh, I have the worst headache. That's what it's gonna be because it goes right into the base of the skull. And then your brain is like, I'm not happy with this. So that's what we're trying to loosen up. Now we are gonna stretch after this, but we have one more to go. These are the rotational ones. Not a lot of pressure, okay, guys? This is like, on a scale from that 1 to 10, you're looking at about a 5. Okay, so you're not trying to snap your neck in half or anything like that. You're just trying to get pressure to feel those muscles work. We're going to go back to that right side, rolling our shoulders back and down. We're going to put our hand on our head like this, but this time it's like that stretch when I'm asking you guys to shoulder check, but the hand stops you. So you might have to adjust where the hand is. Shoulders are down and back. Go to turn your head, but you can't. So it's going that way. I'm rotating. 3, 2, 1, and release. A little bit of that chin tuck. You go to turn the head, but it doesn't go. Push, push, push. 3, 2, 1, release. Chin tuck, realign if you need to, and go to turn the head. Push, push, push. 3, 2, 1, and release. We got one more time. You want to push and turn. See that? That's my sternocleidomastoid right there. That's what I'm trying to stretch. And release. Roll the shoulders. These exercises are going to be fatiguing tomorrow. You're going to be like, what did I do yesterday? 1,000 shoulder shrugs? No, we turned our head and stopped it from happening. So roll the shoulders back and down. That other hand. You might have to be here. You might have to be here. Whatever's more comfortable for you. Little bit of that chin tuck, okay? And my head will be doing this if my hand doesn't stop. So that's what I'm trying to do. Turn the head, do that shoulder check. 3, 2, 1, and release. Turn the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. And turn the head. 3, 2, 1. Release. We got one more time. Just trying to get this muscle right there. We want that to be working. And release, roll the shoulders. Perfect. Okay, now we're gonna stretch those out. So, of course, in any seated position, plane, train, automobile, it's gonna be easy to do neck stretches. So we're definitely gonna do those right now just because we messed around with them quite a bit. Sitting up nice and tall, shoulders relaxed. We're gonna tilt the head to the side just to get that stretch. Remember, when you're traveling, shallow breathing is a thing. So especially when you're doing these static stretches, you take advantage and you deep inhale through the belly and then exhale and get all that air out. Deep inhale. And as you're exhaling, you can try to tilt that head just a little bit more if you'd like. Then we're going to lift that head. We're going to tilt to the other side. Just start where you start, especially when you get really stiff. Maybe it's about here and you're barely moving, but by the end, it's maybe tilted a little bit down. That's great. But you do have to breathe into it. And then coming back to center, couple shoulder circles there. Like I said, the front of the throat gets kind of tight and tired because we sit a little bit hunched forward. So these guys are going to be tight and these guys are going to be unhappy, tight and weak. So when you're going to bring those shoulders back and down, bring everything into neutral position, lead with the chin, and we're going to look up towards the ceiling. Feel that stretch right in the front of the throat. And then you're going to look down towards your lap, tuck that chin in, try not to move the spine. Feel that stretch in, hopefully the whole back of the neck and into the shoulders. Lift that head up, chin is what's leading the way. And then you're going to tuck that chin in, breathe. And then coming back to center, a couple shoulder circles. Good. Okay. So now we've gotten out of the vehicle. We're going to Calgary. We obviously stop in Red Deer because we're going to have some donuts at the donut mill. And therefore, we have a little bit of a break at Red Deer. And so that is where the actual stretching comes into play. I've used the tire of my vehicle, the curb of a street. I've used mailboxes, garbage cans. Find something around you when you are traveling that is not going to move when you put your foot on it. Feel free to have a little bit of water before we start. And we're going to stretch and move. Obviously, the first thing you got to do when you get out of the vehicle is slowly make your way out of the vehicle. Okay, so especially if you understand stiff muscles or you have a bad hip or a bad knee, you know what I'm talking about when you're like, well, that joint doesn't move that way anymore. And you have to kind of baby step into it, okay? But once you're standing nice and tall, you just want to kind of march on the spot a little bit, okay? So just get your shoulders relaxed. Lift up that rib cage because again, you're probably slouched forward. And it's not so much the lifting of the rib cage. That's not really why you're doing it. It's so that your hips straighten because they've been seated. They've been in that flex position for too long. And this is just nice, gentle marching on the spot. Don't worry about anything else. We're going to start from the ground. We're going to work our way up. You're going to put your toe on the ground and you're going to do some ankle circles. Start from the ground, always work your way up. Because if you have arthritis in the knee, a hip replacement, back issues, starting from the ground is the safest point because you're kind of getting to it and then you're really bringing it up to that actual affected issue of the muscle, the joint, whatever's causing you the pain. We're going to switch to the other side, toe on the ground, doing some ankle circles. Nice, easy movements, okay? And I do recommend that these movements, anytime that you're standing up, I've done this in grocery stores when I've stopped in Edson on the way to Jasper. What it does is it just helps those joints be like, oh, freedom. That's what that is. And then you get back in the vehicle and you drive for many hours. So it's one of those things. This is a trade secret that I have. Don't kick anything behind you, butt kicks. I cannot stress enough how important butt kicks are when you're traveling long distances because it's the complete opposite direction of seated, okay? So this movement, those quads get tight. Quad meaning four 4 huge muscles in your thigh that have just been in their shortest, happiest position for many, many hours. So butt kicks are by far the best thing that you can do. Again and again and again and again and again. You will not injure yourself. This is just a nice movement that those butt kicks will really, really help quite a bit. Okay, you're standing in that wide stance, neutral position. I recommend that if you do have back issues or you're feeling really, really stiff, just start with like the nice, gentle side to side like this. Don't really worry too much about that movement. Check into your body, okay? It'll probably take 5 to 10 of these before your body's willing to open up to you. Then when you're like, yep, I feel safe, it feels good. Now we're gonna go into our normal core twist, side to side. Arms are up a little higher. Definitely lift that heel when you're twisting side to side. If you start to feel dizzy, it's because your eyes are moving with your body, and your ear might not like that. So you might just have to look forward while the body does the twists. Perfectly fine to do that. And then you can slow down those core twists. Now we've loosened up the back a little bit. Now we're going to do standing back extension. For people who don't go down on the ground, this is the one that you guys do quite often because it's the modification I give. But for everybody for traveling, we're not going to get down on pavement and do this. So standing back extensions are your best friend. Your feet are in neutral position, facing straight ahead. You're going to put your hand lower back to butt area. Okay, so you're on the top part of your butt. Your lower back muscles are definitely protected. You're going to bend the knees just a tiny little bit. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze your glutes. Elongate that spine. And you're going to arch back a little bit. And then you're going to stand forward. We're not doing the limbo here, okay? You squeeze those glutes. You're going to arch back, feel your lower back, not too much. And then stand to neutral. The more you squeeze the glutes as you lean back, the safer your lower back is going to be. Couple more times. Just keep those shoulders relaxed. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze those glutes. Slight bend in the knees. And then we got one more time. Just leaning back just a little bit. And then coming forward. The stretch to put everything back into neutral. Bend into those hips. Hands are on your knees. Like we're out of breath and we're gonna vomit. That's the stretch that you're looking for. Why? Because the back is straight. So it's nice. We get to push back into our hips. Our weight is on our heels. Arms are straight. And we're just kind of stretching out that lower back, seeing where it is, and just having a nice easy go of it after we did those back extensions. Use those glutes to come up to a standing position. Just kind of roll out those shoulders a little bit. Of course, in a standing position anywhere, even in a hotel room, you can, of course, do arm circles. So those arm circles, these ones that we always do to warm up, that's why I give it to you guys, is because it's the most functional movement you can do for your arms and for your shoulders. So if you've been sitting in this thing for a long, long time and you're reading your book for 4 hours waiting for the bus to stop, arm circles are by far one of the best things that you can do for your upper body, because it just loosens everything attached to the upper body. Okay? So once that's nice and loosened up, like I said, find a trash can, curb of the sidewalk, a vehicle, preferably your own vehicle. Your toe is as high as possible on something that does not move. The knee is straight. You want to push that hip forward, forward, forward. Straight spine, shoulders relaxed. As you exhale, because you'll probably start here, that's okay. But as you exhale, you're going to push your hip bone closer to the wall, the countertop, whatever you happen to be using at the time. Try to keep that knee nice and straight. Relax any tension out of your shoulders. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And you can switch to the other side. Toe nice and high. Knee is straight, pushing forward. Breathe into that movement. Inhale, exhale. It takes that 30 seconds. And 30 seconds is that actually a long time. We think like, oh, it's definitely at a time. And you're probably at 13 seconds. Okay. So it takes a while for that calf to settle so that it can stretch a little bit more into it. So you can straighten that knee a little bit more, push the hip a little bit more. All those things take a little bit of time. And good. You can just kind of shake out those legs. For stability, pretend that you have a vehicle beside you, or of course we have a chair, we have a wall. Always safety, have something there. Hamstring stretch. It's not like we have a chair all the time. So if you don't have a chair, standing hamstring stretch will definitely do the trick for you. You want that right heel on the ground. Notice it's actually not very far in front of me at all because I can't. Like that's full extension. My heel's on the ground, my leg is straight, which is good because when I sit back into my hip, this knee and hip are bent. All of my weight is in my glutes and in this heel so that I can reach forward, depending on your back, okay? Hands will be on that thigh and you're hinging at the hip. Toe is pointing up. That's your goal. If you have the balance and stability, you want to go a little bit deeper, your back is fine. You can reach for it, but you don't have to, okay? It's nice to just have the hands on the thigh and get that hamstring to stretch. The torso comes up, use your glutes, swish that other side. Heels on the ground because the toe is coming towards you. You have to sit back into the hip, hands on your thighs, toe pulling towards you. You're definitely gonna feel that in the hamstring, back of the knee, calf area. Just try to relax the shoulders, not fall over. Get into that stretch. And then use that glute to come out of it, shaking out those legs. Now, by far, like I said, the standing butt kicks are great. One of the best things you can do because we're loosening up those quads. The tricky part with quad stretches, of course, is if you can grab onto your ankle, great, right? You're just going to grab onto the wall or a chair or a garbage can, and you're going to hold onto that foot beside your vehicle. If you can't grab onto your foot, what works really great, what I've done with people that I've traveled with that have had knee issues especially, the car door is open, which is great because you're holding on to the car door, right? And you have that step, whether it's the car or hopefully not a super crazy high truck, but there'll always be like a footrest or the floor of the car that the door will be open and you just put your foot on the back where the car is, the frame, the car frame, okay? That will stretch your quad and that's very, very important. We're gonna switch to the other side. So maybe it's just that toe pulling back. Do not fall over, balance, bounce here, okay? Or grabbing onto that foot. Does not matter where that ankle ends up. I want you to have a nice straight hip. So you're standing nice and tall and then just trying to pull that knee back a little bit. You can use your arm if you're holding onto your foot or just push that hip forward if that foot is behind you. And you can release that, shaking out those limbs. Perfect. Okay, so travel-wise, the last little things that I'm going to give you are just some exercises and stretches that you can do while you are wherever you are. So let's say you made it to your destination finally. You're at a hotel, you're on a cruise ship, you're at your family's house, okay? One of the best things that you can do is a nice wide stance, of course, not in sock feet on slippery floors. If you have shoes, great, because what you're looking for is that wide stance with the feet. If you have hip issues, just standing here like this is actually pretty great, okay, right? Because you're in that really locked up position, seated position all through the travel. So literally to just stand like this, hands on your hips, just gonna push forward just a little bit. See that little bit of that stretch in those hip flexors? That's what you're looking for. In this position, I want you to squeeze your glutes. I know, weird, right? You're like, oh, all kinds of things I didn't know that I had before contracting. It's because they're neutral, they can do it. But when you go to squeeze your glutes, the quads contract and relax, okay? Stand nice and tall, make sure those hips are nice and straight. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze those glutes. Feel that, feel this, squeeze, 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 and relax. So it should just feel like, oh, my bones are settling, okay? We're nice and tall in the torso and contract. Squeeze, 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 squeeze those glutes. You'll feel those hip bones kind of push forward a little bit. Adductors are working, glutes are working, squeeze, 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 and then relax. So hopefully you feel Those greater trochanters, those femurs, do this, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze those glutes. They'll sort of rotate internally in the pelvic bone. Squeeze, 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 and then release. And it'll just kind of ease out that way. Beautiful, beautiful strength and stretch for those hips. When we come out of this, baby step, baby step, baby step, shake out those legs. Obviously, the big three movements here. When you're doing strength exercises, especially if you're on holiday, you want to just keep up strength that you worked so hard in these classes and now you're gone for 4 weeks doing something. This will keep your strength level. Okay, you won't lose too much if you do these big three. First one, of course, sit down squats. So we're going to do those. You're going to do 15 reps if you'd like. Don't worry about timing. If you feel like I'm going too fast, don't worry about it. Just do it at your own pace. You only get maybe 12 reps. It's totally fine. Feet are hips distance apart, shoulders back, core is active. You're going to stand up, squeeze those glutes, come back down. 1, shoulders back. 2. If you feel like these squats are too much, 3, you can do baby squats. That'll look like this. 4, you don't go down all the way. It's nicer on the joints. Half strength. Okay, always fine to do that. Keep going, squeeze those glutes when you come up, come down. We have 5 more. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Shaking out those legs. For convenience sake for today, we're going to be using the wall. Okay, so find a wall, door jamb, something like that. That works really well. If you have no issue getting down on the ground and you can do push-ups and planks and all those kinds of things, you can absolutely do these on the ground. But like I said, for convenience sake, everybody today, we're going to be using the wall. The big 3, squats, scapation push-ups, and planks. You get upper body, lower body, core. Push-ups though are tricky because of course, push-ups are great. But like I said, especially when you're traveling, your shoulders are already kind of slunched forward. It's not bad because we got to get all those muscles nice and strong. The biceps, the triceps, the shoulders, everything's working in a push-up. But we also want to isolate our back, our shoulder blades to keep us in good form. So scapation push-ups will look like this. Your hands are going to be on the wall. You're going to have to step away from the wall. This is nice with both feet on the ground. Your arms are about shoulder height. If you want a little bit harder, you can have 1 foot. So you just cross the ankle like this. So only 1 foot is helping you. The actual main movement I want you guys to do, we're going to do the push-up. Okay, so your chest goes towards the wall. It goes away. But we're going to add this one, very tricky, scapation. It just looks like this. We squeeze the shoulder blades, the arms are straight the whole time. So it'll look like this. We do a push-up. Once our arms are straight, do scapation. We do a push-up, and then we do scapation. Against the wall, it'll look like this. We do the push-up, our nose comes towards the wall. When we're here, squeeze those shoulder blades together as hard as you can before releasing. Push up, scapation. Push up, scapation. You'll start to feel your shoulders fatigue quite a bit because of that extra scapation movement. Really, really, really squeeze those shoulder blades together before releasing. Okay, so just one more time. You're going to do that push up. Once those arms are straight, do scapation, and then just shake out your arms, roll your shoulders, you can come back. You can have a little breather, you can have a little bit of water. Scapation is one of the hardest things to do. Do not do this. I'm just going to show you really, really quick. If you're doing this on the ground, it'll look like this. You do the push up, and then scapation looks like this. Notice my torso. Everybody just watch what my torso is doing, because this is what it should look like when you're doing it on the wall as well. I'm not doing this. I'm not like my hip isn't going down. It's my shoulder blades squeezing together and then pulling apart. My arms are straight. Push up is very, very different. Elbows are bending. Once my arms are straight, I'm doing scapation. And that's what it looks like on the wall as well. You do the push up, arms are straight, scapation. It's a weird movement. I'm not shrugging my shoulders. I'm squeezing my shoulder blades together. Okay, what that'll do, strengthen everything in the upper body. Okay, again, for convenience sake, we're going to use our chair. You can do this on the floor, wherever you end up going when your travels, but the third of the big three for travel is plank positions. Squats for legs, scapation push-ups for upper body, planks for core and back. You can do whatever you want. You can do plank mountain climbers, you can move the feet, you can go up, down, whatever you want, but I'm just going to give you normal plank, works great. If you'd like, you can do straight arm plank like this. It's a little bit easier, but it's hard on the wrists. But you are higher. If it's hard on the wrists or you want a little bit harder, we're going to go on to our forearms. So get into whatever position is comfortable for you, forearms or straight arms. Ready, set, go ahead. You're just trying to push through those heels a little bit. Squeeze those glutes. You can come out of this whenever you need to. So every 10 seconds if you'd like, 20 seconds, whatever works. We still have 12 seconds left. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and good. We're going to go into downward dog, hands on the chair. You might have to rearrange where those feet are. We're going to push back, back, back. Stretch out your lower back. Push back through those hips. Relax your shoulders and your head in the downward dog position. Breathe deep into this stretch. And then you're going to be leaning forward, bringing the feet towards the chair. Use those glutes to come up. Have a little bit of water. If you feel dizzy or anything like that, feel free to sit. Anytime that you're in a chair, you can do everything that we do in boot camp. Of course, the seated cross ankle stretch, all those ones are great to do. It's just depending on the travel that you're doing, it can be just a little bit restrictive. So I've definitely done it. We're all going to do our normal seated cross ankle stretch right now because we have the space and we have the room and we have the time. So this one, of course, is an all-time favorite because it loosens up the glutes and it loosens up the lower back. In a car, depending on your legs, right? So of course I'm 6 feet tall, so my femurs are like ridiculously long. And I'm the one usually driving. So if you're the driver, don't do this one. But you want to sit up nice and tall and you want to push forward. In a restaurant, when you guys stop for food, like I said, you go to the donut mill in Red Deer on the way to Calgary, or when you get to your destination, yes, 100%. In a chair, when you have the space, this one will help relieve a lot of tension in the knee and in the hip and in the back. It's one of those ones that puts everything back into neutral position and settles it. We're going to lean back. We're going to switch. I've done it in planes. Like I said, I just make instant friends with the people around me and go, well, hello there. I need your space. I'm just going to put my leg in your bubble for a second because I need to put my leg out here. But it depends, especially in a car, might be a little bit too tricky to do that while you travel, which is fine. Just whenever you can. This one is a great one to do. You're going to lean back, and then I'm going to get you guys to stand up before we do next stretch. The other one that you guys can do is the standing glute exercises. So this is, you guys are in the parking lot, you're doing that calf stretch, you're doing your quad stretch, right? You're just going to do that wide stance. It's great, great, great. The glutes themselves, it's very important to contract them because you felt it the easiest in this one, that when you squeeze those glutes, the femur bones are kind of moving in the pelvis, which is nice. So it's the same kind of concept, neutral position, feet are about hip distance apart, shoulders are back and down, squishy knees, okay? As hard as you possibly can. We're gonna do this for 10 seconds straight. You're gonna squeeze your glutes. Okay, so exhale all the air out of your lungs. Exhale, exhale. Take a nice deep inhale. And then squeeze, squeeze, squeeze those glutes as you exhale. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 9, 8, 7, 6. Squeeze them a little harder. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And lean forward and stretch. Like that should feel like a release. Definitely you are relieved because that's how hard you were squeezing those glutes. Okay, we're gonna do this 2 more times. Use your glutes to stand up. Just kind of readjust if you need to. Take a nice deep inhale. And when you exhale, squeeze, 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 squeeze those glutes. Keep breathing, but squeeze those glutes as hard as you can. Squeeze them a little bit more. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. So you stick the butt out, arms are locked in place, and you can kind of just wiggle side to side and loosen that up. If you're asking yourself, like, man, are people going to be staring at me in the parking lot when I'm doing this at the donut mill? Yes, they will. But I still do it. Okay, we go one more time, standing up nice and tall. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, nice and big. And then squeeze, 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 squeeze those glutes as hard as you possibly can. A little bit of bend in the knees so you can get a little bit more activation in the glute. Get that quad working a little bit harder. 3, 2, 1, and release. Just kind of rock those knees side to side and loosen up the butt a little bit. Good. Use the glutes, not the back, to stand up and just shake out those legs. So what it does is it just helps that blood flow back to the heart. We get pretty groggy and very, very stiff. So all these exercises you will strengthen for sure, and you will get that mobility and that stretching while you're doing your summer adventures. We're going to sit in the chair and we're going to end with our normal, well, a little bit deeper neck stretch, but it'll end up being the same. Now, the sternocleidomastoid muscle, I know it's a ridiculously long name, but essentially it means sterno, meaning it connects to your sternum, cleido, your clavicle muscle, that's your, what is the layman's term for that? Collarbone. I was like, what is the name? That's the official name is the clavicle, but it's called your collarbone. So it's attached, okay? Sternum to clavicle into the neck. Shoulders are back and down, okay? We're gonna tilt our head to the side. And the goal here is you're gonna have that chin kind of rotate just a little bit, maybe tilt down just a little bit. You want to feel that muscle, that sternocleidomastoid. You'll feel it. It'll be like, yep, definitely. I'm getting a big stretch, sort of on the front of the neck, off to the side. That's what you're trying to stretch. Okay. Breathe into it. Relax the shoulder. You might have to turn that head a little bit more. You might have to tilt it down a little bit more. Don't be afraid to fiddle around with that movement to see where you get that biggest stretch from. Coming back to center, couple shoulder circles. Shoulders are relaxed down and back. We're going to tilt the head to the side first, just the normal stretch. And then you're going to tilt the head maybe a little bit down, maybe tuck the chin in a little bit. Just fiddle around with it till you find, yep, there it is. There's my sternocleidomastoid. It's very, very tight. Goes from the neck down into the shoulder there. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Take your time finding it. Stretch into it. Ask it to release. And then coming back to center, couple shoulder circles. Perfect. And just kind of loosey-goosey there. My other advice, of course, is to drink water, which I say in quotations because, of course, we have long highways in this country. So water is like, drink water, but then you're like, I need a bathroom. So it's one of those things that it's nice to stay hydrated, but always have, Google Maps helps with that. Just be like, I need a bathroom. It's 5 minutes away or 4 hours away, never really know. So hopefully that helps you guys a little bit, even just to loosen up the muscles. If you aren't traveling anywhere this summer, it's always nice to just get the joints loosey-goosey. We're good to go for all of July. We got 9 sessions because we have 5 weekends in July, which is Fantastic. And yeah, I'm good to go for all of them. So I sent out an email this morning. Feel free to check that one out. I will of course be sending this workout in an email later on this afternoon. Hopefully have a great Canada Day weekend, everybody. Enjoy the summer, and I will hopefully see you guys next month, or rather next week. Bye, everybody.